Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. So I thought today I would go over some 2023 reading stats, reflect on the year a little bit, and then talk about some 2024 goals, which are definitely going to be significantly less ambitious than what I typically do, and I think what most people typically do here on BookTube. But also, welcome to what will soon be my new space. I mean, it's still the same room that I'm recording in, but I have new bookshelves and I'm in the process of making this into my little library. And yes, I am recording that process as much as I remember to. And yes, there will be like a video at least showing you my bookshelves and my books and all that stuff, but obviously it's not done yet. So I was originally going to wait to record videos until this was done, but I'm taking things a little bit slower. And so I don't want to wait to record videos. So empty bookshelves for now, books coming in the future. So to briefly kick things off, I figured we'd start with 2023 reading stats and just going through kind of like the little stats that they provide on Storygraph. So in 2023, I read a total of 47 books, which is on the lower side for me compared to the past couple of years. I've been able to hit 50 books pretty easily over the past few years, but last year I wasn't able to. And I always put 50 books as my goal because I always found that that's like a good marker of what I want to be reading at. Usually, about one book a week feels like a good pace for me. And so I always set my reading goal to 50. And then I realized partway through the year that I was not going to be able to hit 50 books by the end of the year. And part of me wanted to reduce my goal, but there's something about not reaching the goal that feels very apt for 2023. Like, it would be very easy for me to adjust my reading goal down so I could get the little "you did it" notification or whatever on Goodreads and Storygraph. But there's a part of me that likes the fact that it says that I didn't accomplish the goal for 2023 because I want it to be kind of like an accurate reflection of 2023. Like, to me, I didn't achieve the things I set out to do, and that's okay. It's okay to not always hit the mark. I tried, but I didn't hit it, and that's fine. I'm going to put on the screen a couple of the graphs that Storygraph provides that I don't really pay close attention to, but are, there. And my top moods were emotional, reflective, and dark and mysterious, I think are almost exactly the same. Yeah, they're like one book off from each other. So those were the main things I was reading last year. The pace of things, everything I read is basically medium paced. There's a couple slower books, a couple faster books, but everything is basically medium paced. Everything is generally between 300 to 500 pages. That's like my sweet spot when it comes to book sizes. And I think I only read 3 nonfiction books last year, which, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, in terms of the genre breakdown, I always find this to be really interesting just because it's interesting to see sort of where my interests go. Literary fiction was my number 1, which is not very surprising, and followed by contemporary. I would say those are my top 2. Mystery was actually number 3. Mystery and thriller were actually towards the top, which I feel like hasn't happened in a while. I feel like since I hosted the Read or Dead podcast for Book Riot, which was a mystery thriller podcast, obviously I was reading a lot of mysteries and thrillers because of that. And then I feel like after I stopped doing that, I felt also just really burned out with mysteries and thrillers. And so it feels like it's been a while. But I think one, I'm getting out of that slump and I'm starting to crave mysteries and thrillers more. And then the other thing is that with 2023 and me having a really hard time with reading and getting through books, mysteries and thrillers, are written in a way to capture your attention and to keep you hooked and all of that stuff. And that's kind of what I needed in my books last year. And so it kind of makes sense that a lot of the books that I gravitated towards, especially towards the end of last year, were in the mystery thriller genre. The other graph that Storygraph provides that I find really interesting is the amount of books and pages read per month. And I feel like this just also provides a nice reflection of kind of the way my reading went over the past year. In April, there was a significant dip because I got married and I didn't have as much time as I was preparing for the wedding and even post-wedding, moving and things like that. And then there was another dip towards the end of last year, which I've talked about before. I just like this as a way to reflect kind of the number of books and pages that I'm reading. I also like to see sort of how the lines up in terms of number of pages read versus number of books read. The only time pages went over books was the month that I read the King biography, which makes sense because it was the only book I read in the month of September. It's a very long book. And then my average star rating for the year was 3.61 stars, which it makes sense. I feel like since the existence of Goodreads and things like that. Like I joined Goodreads in like 2006 or 7, something like that. And ever since then, my average rating has been around a 3.5 to 3.7 star rating, because generally I'm pretty good at giving up on books. So like I very rarely have 1-2 star ratings, and then I very rarely give out 5-star ratings. Like almost everything I read falls in 3 to 4 stars range. So yeah, makes sense. So yeah, those are my 2023 reading stats, and kind of reflecting on that and reflecting on the year that I've had. You know, last year I tried to make quarterly goals, but then I just eventually stopped. And I was thinking about what I wanted in 2024, and I feel like, you know, over the past, you know, couple weeks, a couple month or so, you know, I've been posting videos about how my reading has just taken a slump in general and how things have just changed pretty significantly for me. And so it's hard for me to create reading goals that feel attainable or successful. There's also part of me that feels a little bit like I'm not really sure what I want or what I can do or anything along those lines. So like the first couple of things are just kind of like habits that I've already been doing and I just kind of want to continue. You know, I'm consistently trying to read books from a variety of authors, variety of backgrounds, variety of types of stories. And so that's the thing that I'm kind of always conscious of. The other thing is that I'm trying to keep my number of unread books on the smaller side. And so my general rule of thumb is that I don't want books to sit on my unread bookshelf for more than a year. And the way I'm having fun with that this year is by doing the TBR spin. If you didn't see that video, I'm going to link to it up above. I go through all of my unread books currently and I talk about what the TBR spin is and how I'm going to be doing that. But basically, I'm going to be reading one book a month from my unread bookshelf, and that'll get me through all of my unread books from this year. But beyond that, I was like, I don't really know. Like there's things I could try to do, but I feel like I'm still getting my footing when it comes to reading and making videos and all of those different things. And I don't want to push myself too hard. And I feel like over the past couple of months, kind of beyond BookTube, I've been watching a lot of people who I've been following for a while on YouTube who have been talking about like slowing down and pulling back in a variety of ways and things like that. I'm going to have links to videos down in the description in case you're interested. One person is Hannah Winton, who like went part-time in terms of like the number of hours that she was working after she had her first kid. And then now she just decided to like stop creating content on one of her channels. There's another person named Asia Dang who I follow because she talks about like finances and things like that. And she had a really rough 2023 and is basically talking about how 2024 is basically her slow girl era. And then I just saw a video from the Vlog Brothers from John Green where he's talking about needing to take breaks more and things along those lines and not forcing himself to make a video every single Tuesday like he's done for the past however many years they've been doing it. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at as well. I feel like if I'm gonna pick like a word or phrase for the year, it's basically like slow down and be intentional. Like that's kind of what I want out of my life and out of my 2024. 2022 and 2023 were filled with like a lot of big changes, big events. Brief overview, I bought a house the fall of 2022, spent the next 6 months remodeling it / hiring people to remodel it. I did very little of the actual work, but you know, having to figure all that stuff out, make decisions in terms of like what we wanted to do with this house and all of these different things. And you know, we're settled into the space, but obviously there's still stuff to do. Like I'm currently working on my library. The other thing is that like I got married and I moved and my work stuff has changed quite a bit, and so like there's been a lot of changes there. And I just feel like I was talking about this with my husband and he's like, yeah, like the past 2 years have been a lot of like execution. Like we've needed to be like moving forward at a pretty steady pace in order to get things done in a certain time frame. And now I don't really have hard deadlines that I need to meet anymore when it comes to that stuff, like in terms of the house or anything like that. And I kind of want to slow down. I want to do less, but do better with what I have. And it feels like a weird thing to make a goal out of, but I think it is something that I need to do intentionally because I am a person who likes to make goals and accomplish things and do the most all the time. But I think I need to pull back a little bit on everything and then try to figure out what matters most to me and what I really need to excel at. And all of those different things and be really intentional with what I'm doing. And what that means in terms of like books and booktube and stuff like that is, one, I have like that, those couple of goals that I'm keeping in mind all the time, but I'm setting a reading goal at 24. And my thought behind that is that I'm going to basically be reading one book a month from a unread bookshelf because of the TBR spin. And then I'm just going to give myself just like one more book that I'm going to try to read. And I'm also kind of basing that on how quickly I'm currently reading the book that I'm currently reading. It's taking me about like a week and a half to get through this book. And I don't want to make myself feel bad about the fact that I'm taking quote unquote so long to finish a book. I originally was thinking just to put 12, but I was like, let me do a little bit more than just one book a month, because I want to hit one book a month with TBR spin. So I'm like, one physical book and one library book, and maybe I'll read more than that. I'm honestly hoping I'll hit more to like 3 to 4 books a month, but I don't want to like put the pressure on myself to hit that number. And if I see it on Goodreads or Storygraph that I'm like behind schedule, that's not gonna make it easier on me. I need that like sort of mental encouragement that like, yeah, no, 1 to 2 books a month, you're good to go. And if there are times where I read like 4 books in a month and I need to slow down in a different month, like I want that to also just work out numbers wise and things like that. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm purposefully setting a lower goal to get myself to slow down a little bit, to be more purposeful and be more intentional. And then in terms of videos, like I'm not making any sort of goals with videos. My goal with videos is just to keep making videos and just do it when I can, how I can, however it looks like. So yeah, that's kind of like what I'm looking for in 2024. And I'm also hoping the slowdown provides space for me to refill my cup a little bit, and then potentially like figure out what I want to be doing, how I want to be doing things. Maybe I'll continue in the same path. Maybe I'll enjoy like doing things a little bit slower, making different types of videos. And by different types, I just mean like making just one-on-one book reviews or something along those lines. I probably won't be doing wrap-ups and things like that anymore, because just the pace that I'll be consuming books means that like a wrap-up doesn't make as much sense unless I do like a quarterly wrap-up, which I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really like pushing myself in that way. I want to slow down, and I want to just slow down and be intentional. That's the phrase for 2024. And this is kind of coming through in some other areas of my life as well. Just, purposefully slowing down, being more intentional and focused with what I'm doing, and just like being more intentional with what I'm eating, how we're cooking, making sure I'm moving every day, things like that. And I feel like before, the to-do list has been so long that I wasn't able to be intentional in that way before. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Maybe things will change. Maybe halfway through the year I'll change my mind, and that's totally fine. But I think at least for right now, slow down and be intentional is a good way to go. So yeah, that's everything I have for you all right now. Let me know down in the comments below what your 2024 goals are, and what you kind of want to accomplish in your reading year. There are lots of other things I'm thinking about. If you watch the TBR spin video, you'll see that I mentioned like this book called Divine Days. That's on the larger side, and like my goal is to read that by the end of the year. And originally I was like, oh, in my 2024 goals video I'll talk about it, but I didn't, because I'm like, I'll read it. I'm not going to make a plan for how I'm going to read it, or at least not right now. My goal in my head right now is that like maybe I'll read it either while I'm on vacation or like over the summer or something like that, just taking a really long time to get through that book. But I need more time to figure out how I'm going to handle that, and it'll happen when it happens. That's kind of my vibe with reading and everything right now. Like even this like bookshelf stuff, like I wanted to have all of this done in a certain time frame. I'm going to take a little bit longer so that way I can do it the way I want it to be done, and I'm not going into debt over it, because that's not okay. But yeah, doing things slowly, doing things intentionally, and doing it the way that I want it to be done. But that's a slight tangent again. But I just wanted to mention Divine Days because I did mention it in my TBR spin video and then didn't in this one, and I'm realizing that now. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.